a nonprofit advocacy group for the St. Johns River.
And our mission is to help protect the river.
Hello, welcome once again to the St. Johns Riverkeeper Show. I'm Jimmy Orth. I'm the Executive Director of St. Johns Riverkeeper, and I'm pleased to have as our guest today Dr. Jerry Pinto. Dr. Pinto is a research scientist at the Marine Science Research Institute at Jacksonville University. Thanks for coming on, Jerry.
Thanks for having me.
Well, before we get into it, today Jerry's going to be on the show talking about manatee research and some other things that he does at the MSRI, as we mentioned, the Marine Science Research Institute at JU. Before we do that, though, I always like to start the show with a little bit of information about St. Johns Riverkeeper, who we are and what we do. Today we don't have the Riverkeeper on the show. Usually I defer to the Riverkeeper to provide that information, but I will do it since she is not able to join us today. St. Johns Riverkeeper, we are a nonprofit advocacy group for the St. Johns River. We like to think of ourselves as an independent voice for the river, your representative that is out there advocating for the best interests of the river. And we are not affiliated with a government agency. We do not receive government funding. We are supported by you. So we always encourage you during the show to go to our website, which will show up on the screen when you see the two of us. You'll see the website here on this board behind us. Go to the website. You can learn more about St. Johns Riverkeeper, what we do, the activities we're involved in, and also how you can get involved and how you can join, because we do depend on your memberships to help support this organization. As I mentioned, we're 100% privately funded, and that allows us to be an independent voice for the river. So get involved. Some of the things that we do, as we've seen on the previous shows, is we have a St. Johns Riverkeeper. That person has the title. Lisa Reineman is our new Riverkeeper, and she is really the public advocate for the river. She attends a lot of the meetings where decisions are being made about the future of the river. We have an education director and an outreach director, so we're heavily involved in educating youth and adults alike. And so there's a lot of different ways to get involved. We have a great volunteer program if you'd like to join. And we have a river patrol. We have folks that are out on the water in their kayaks, canoes, boats, sailboats that are keeping their eyes out for problems that may impact the river. It's really a community-based organization, and we'd encourage you to get involved. And at a minimum, I encourage you to get involved by learning about the river, getting to know the St. Johns River and some of the issues that affect it, and a lot of information on our website about that. So, Jerry, now that I have given our little spiel about Riverkeeper and let people know more about what we do, well, I want to learn more about you and what you do at JU. First of all, why don't you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
Well, I came to Florida maybe 15 years ago. Ended up getting a job at teaching biology at JU. And started to learn about manatees and got more involved in the research of manatees, and then more about the research about what happens in the river, how the river influences manatees, how people interact with manatees and the river. And so I've spent the last 15 years doing that. Been very interesting. Every time you think you know what's going on, nature teaches you that maybe you don't know everything.
Right. Now, what do you do specifically in your research, and how is that research used?
Well, in 1989, the governor and cabinet mandated that certain counties in Florida had to come up with manatee protection plans because large numbers of manatees were getting killed by watercraft. And so this was not sustainable for the manatee population. So Duval County was one of those counties that had to come up with a plan. And Dr. Quentin White and myself and some other researchers worked on writing a manatee protection plan. And so what we've done is had that plan approved by state and federal government, and have implemented that plan over the years and have rewritten it, and we are currently going through another rewrite of the plan right now.
Can you explain a little bit about what the plan entails? What does it try to do to help protect manatees?
There are many aspects in the plan. It has many research angles. First of all, we try to get an inventory of all the natural resources in the area that affect manatees. we try to get an idea of where manatees are and how many there are, where are the hot spots, if you like, for these animals. We like to look at what affects them, boat traffic. So we need to know where boat facilities are, and we have inventories that are ongoing each year to find out the numbers of boats, where they are, how they're parked, how they're used, how many people have docks, how many people have boats at their docks, you know, that kind of thing. Because all this affects manatees. What's going on at the port, what's going on with dredging the river, all these kind of activities have impacts, anthropogenic activities that have impacts on manatees and their population. So we try to look at all that and assemble a database. Now, from that database, the state and the feds work with the city government and our recommendations to come up with regulations that would protect the manatee. And so we've done that over the years, and they seem to be working very well because manatee population is increasing.
That's great. Well, now, for folks that maybe don't know much about manatees, can you tell us a little bit about these creatures? I wish we would have had some video to show people these manatees in their natural environment, because they are unbelievable. And I think most people know about, are familiar with them, but tell us a little bit of some fun facts about manatees, maybe.
Well, manatees are really interesting. You know, they're a brownish gray looking beast that looks sort of like an Idaho potato, I'd like to say. Many people akin them to looking like a large seal. They are related to elephants. They are surprisingly strong animals, very, very muscular. People think that they look like they have a lot of fat on them, but actually they don't have that much fat. They're solid muscle. Their teeth are more like the molars of an elephant. They move forward from the back of the mouth. They're used for chewing vegetation, and they wear out and they fall off in the front, and they keep growing. So they're interesting in that sense. Their hair is similar to an elephant's. Their skin is similar to an elephant's. They even have these little toenails on their flippers that look like fingernails that elephants have on their feet. So they're an interesting animal. When I first came to Florida, I didn't know what a manatee was. And after a few years of working with them, you learn what they are and how they behave and that kind of thing. And a few more years, and people start calling you an expert. But they're a very interesting animal. They don't have any natural predators. And this is one of the reasons why they're so endangered is the fact that they can get hit by boats, and humans have an impact on them in that sense. They also don't produce a lot of calves very quickly. Their regeneration time is sort of slow. You know, a female might be producing a calf by the 6th or 7th year of her life, and then it may be 3 to 5 years before she has another one. Very rarely have twins.
So one calf at a time, huh?
One calf at a time, most of the time. Sometimes there are twins, and occasionally, if a mother with a calf is injured or killed, and the calf is orphaned, another manatee will adopt that calf. So that happens quite often. But yeah, I mean, we could go talking on forever about manatees. They're very interesting. There are a lot of different things about them.
Well, they are fascinating. I know I've got in my head right now this song, "I'm a Manatee," by the way. I don't know if you've seen the book that John Lithgow, the actor, wrote, and there's a CD that goes with it with a song. And if you haven't, or you're not familiar with it, but my 4-year-old loves it, and I'm sitting here in my head singing, "I'm a manatee, I'm a manatee." But it's great because I think they're a species, they're an animal that people are just naturally attracted to. It's one of those high-profile species that I think are so important because people can identify with them, and they look so cute and cuddly.
Yeah, they're so ugly, they're cute.
Yeah, they are.
Type of thing. You know, they have this lip in front that folds up and sucks in vegetation, and they have tiny eyes. You know, they kind of look cute, I suppose, in that sense.
Well, I think they're cute. But they now tell me about some of the. You've mentioned boats are one of the biggest threats. Are there other threats to the manatee? And
Yeah, I mean, when I say boats, boats are a threat because they are something that we can control, or we can try to control better. There are lots of other threats to manatees. For example, we have in South Florida, they have channel locks that open and close lock gates. Those gates can trap manatees or can crush manatees. That's another human cause that we don't have in Duval County so much at all. You have other natural causes of death that can occur that are attributed to things like the red tide, for example, produces a toxin that can kill manatees. And in 1996, we had about 150 manatees in South Florida die because of brevetoxin, which is a toxin produced from red tide that is incidentally quite noxious to humans as well. So things like that can affect manatees. Also, in the last couple of years, we've had some very cold and extended winters. And when that happens, manatees are not very good at keeping warm when it gets cold. And so they succumb to a couple of things. Actually, they suffer from hypothermia. And as a result of that, in some ways, they don't feed. They stop feeding. So they then suffer from malnutrition. So this combination of malnutrition and hypothermia leads to various things like pneumonia and some secondary infections that usually end up killing them if they're not removed from that cold and taken to a warmer place.
right.
So cold stress is what we call another cause of manatee deaths. There are causes of death that we don't know anything about. For example, a calf might die, or there may be a problem during birth, and so those are called perinatal deaths. And sometimes a perinatal death can be caused by watercraft. Sometimes we don't know what caused it. It was just something didn't go right during the birthing.
Right.
There are other things that can occur. There's a category of manatee deaths called undetermined. And this can range from all kinds of things, like we found a carcass, we don't know what killed it, but it could have been some kind of pollution, it could have been, who knows,
Right.
Anything. Some of the other areas too is trash. These are human impacts also, where you have trash in the water which is ingested by the manatee inadvertently when it's eating its vegetation. Fishing line that can get entangled in the gut and cause blockages and kill the animal that way. You have lines on crab pots and fishing lines and things that are discarded into the environment that end up wrapping around a manatee and choking or reducing the blood flow in one of its appendages, and so that it loses it or something like that can result in infections and secondary diseases that can kill the manatee. So there are a large number of things, and I may have missed a couple, but that gives you an idea of all the different range of things that can affect. Sometimes, as far as predators go, they don't really have natural predators, but mothers and calves have been known to be separated, or a calf has been known to be pursued by an alligator, for example, if it's apart from its mother.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's natural, a natural occurrence that can happen too.
Well, and I would think too that one of the threats, I mean, obviously we talked about human impacts from like boats and pollution, but I would also think that related to that is reduction in habitat. It's got to be a major concern.
Yeah, and so that can occur because of pollution, but that can also occur because of a number of other things. Like, for example, in the river, the most important food source for manatees is the grass beds. We call that SAV, submerged aquatic vegetation. And the predominant type of food source that they like to eat is the Vallisneria, which is tape grass, we call it. So